You are alone in the room. You know that. You checked. The door is closed, the curtains are drawn, and there is nobody else here. And yet something in the back of your skull is telling you otherwise. A quiet pressure, a pulling sensation at the back of your neck, the feeling that something, somewhere, has its eyes on you. You shake it off. You move on. But the feeling was real, and the reason it exists is far stranger than you think. That sensation has a name. Researchers call it the feeling of being watched, or sometimes scopisthesia. And it is not a glitch. It is not anxiety. It is one of the oldest and most precisely engineered alarm systems your species has ever produced. It has kept your ancestors alive through situations you cannot imagine, and right now, sitting in your quiet room, it is still running, still scanning, still waiting for the thing in the dark that is no longer there. To understand why, you need to go back. Not a few decades, not a few centuries. You need to go back to a world where the feeling of being watched was the difference between life and death. For most of human history, your ancestors lived in open landscapes. Grasslands, savannas, the edges of forests. Beautiful places, deadly places. In those environments, predators did not announce themselves. A lion does not roar before it attacks. A leopard does not snap a twig to warn you. The most dangerous things in your ancestral world were invisible right up until the moment they were not. And the animals that survived long enough to become your ancestors were the ones whose brains developed a very specific skill, the ability to detect the gaze of another creature before that creature moved. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience. Ilan Dinstein, a neuroscientist at Ben-Gurion University, has studied how the human brain processes the direction of another person's gaze. His research shows that your brain has dedicated neural machinery specifically for detecting when eyes are pointed at you. Not eyes in general, not faces in general, eyes aimed directly at you. This circuitry activates faster than conscious thought, faster than you can form a sentence, faster in many cases than you even realize something has happened. By the time you think someone is watching me, your brain already made that assessment hundreds of milliseconds ago. This is not something you learned. You were born with it. Newborn infants, studies show, prefer to look at faces with direct gaze over faces with averted gaze within hours of birth. Hours. Before language, before memory, before almost any conscious experience has had time to form, your brain is already tracking eyes, already asking, is that thing looking at me? The question is why this system is so sensitive, so hair trigger, so prone to firing even when there is nobody there. The answer comes from the work of psychologist Martie Haselton at UCLA, who has spent years studying what she calls error management theory. The core idea is elegant and uncomfortable. When your brain makes a mistake, not all mistakes are equal. If your ancestors felt watched and there was nobody there, the cost was low. A moment of alertness, a brief spike of stress hormones, a few seconds of scanning the tree line for nothing. Annoying, but survivable. But if your ancestors did not feel watched and there was something there, the cost was not survivable at all. One mistake in the wrong direction, and your lineage ended. Right there, in the grass. So your brain evolved to make one type of error far more often than the other. It is calibrated to see watchers that are not there rather than miss watchers that are. Every time you feel watched in an empty room, that is not your brain malfunctioning. That is your brain doing exactly what thousands of generations of survival pressure designed it to do. It is erring on the side of your life. But there is another layer to this. Because the feeling of being watched is not only about predators, it is also about people. Humans are intensely social animals, more social in some ways than almost any other species on Earth. And in a small tribal group where you lived, worked, ate, and slept alongside the same 40 or 50 people your entire life, being observed by another person was never neutral. It meant something. Someone watching you could mean you were being evaluated, judged, targeted, desired, threatened. The gaze of another human carried more information per second than almost any other signal in your social environment. Psychologist Michael Argyle, one of the pioneers of nonverbal communication research, spent decades documenting what human gaze does to the body and brain. Direct eye contact triggers measurable changes in heart rate, skin conductance, and hormone levels within seconds. Being looked at changes your physiology. It always has, because in the ancestral world, when someone was looking at you, something was about to happen, and your body needed to be ready for it. This is why you feel self-conscious when you think you are being watched. Why your performance changes. Why you stand differently, speak differently, think differently when you believe eyes are on you. This is sometimes called the observer effect in social psychology, and it runs so deep that even a photograph of eyes on a wall can change how people behave. Studies have placed images of human eyes above donation boxes, above shared kitchen spaces, above bicycle racks. In every case, the behavior of the people nearby shifted. Cooperation went up, theft went down, littering dropped. Nobody was watching, but the eyes on the wall were enough to activate the same ancient circuitry that once kept your ancestor alive in the grass. You are not being irrational when you feel watched. You are being ancient. There is a third dimension to this that almost nobody talks about. And this is the part that changes how you see yourself. Rupert Sheldrake, a biologist whose work sits at the controversial edges of science, spent years collecting data on the feeling of being stared at from behind. His methodology is disputed, his conclusions are not universally accepted, and mainstream science remains skeptical. But what his work did was force a serious question. Why is this experience so universal? Across every culture ever studied, across every continent, in children and adults and the elderly, people report the experience of feeling watched from behind with remarkable consistency. The sensation of eyes on the back of your neck, the turning around and finding someone looking. Sheldrake's critics argue the experience is explained entirely by error management theory and confirmation bias. We remember the times we turned around and someone was there, and forget the times we turned around and nobody was. And they are probably right, but the fact that the experience is so universal, so consistent, so deeply wired into the human nervous system that it has been documented in every culture in recorded history tells you something important. This is not a quirk. This is not a personality trait. This is infrastructure built into every human brain that has ever existed. Think about what that means for how you move through the world. Every time you walk into a room full of people and feel the weight of their attention, you are running the same program your ancestor ran when they stepped into a clearing and scanned for predators. Every time you sit in public and feel uncomfortable under a stranger's gaze, you are experiencing the same physiological response that once meant the difference between running and being caught. Every time you check over your shoulder for no reason, you are listening to a system so old it does not speak in words. It speaks in pressure, in temperature, in a pulling at the back of your neck that you cannot explain and cannot ignore. The modern world has changed almost everything about how you live. You have walls, you have cities, you have artificial light and locked doors and security cameras and legal systems designed to keep you safe. The predators are gone, and yet the system that protected your ancestors from them is still running, full speed, all the time, in a world it was never designed for. It fires in empty offices, it fires in quiet bedrooms, it fires when a painting's eyes follow you across a room, or when a security camera lens catches the light at the wrong angle. It fires because it cannot afford not to. And somewhere underneath all the noise of modern life, underneath the notifications and the schedules and the thousand small demands of the day, that ancient machinery is still doing its job. Still scanning, still calculating, still asking, with every room you enter and every corner you pass, the same question it has asked for 100,000 years. Is something out there watching you? Tonight, when you feel it, you will know what it is. Not anxiety, not imagination, an inheritance. The most carefully tuned alarm system your species ever built, passed down through an unbroken chain of survivors who felt exactly what you are feeling right now and lived because of it. You are alone in the room. You know that, but part of your brain will never fully believe it. And that part of your brain is the reason you are here at all.